I am not trying to scare you, but I want you to understand the reality. This section might be one of the most important sections of the entire school year. Okay. In Algebra 2, in pre-calculus, special right triangles, we have to know how to work with them. Okay. It's just the nature of the beast. Okay. So I'm going to introduce you to them today. We will work on them again tomorrow. But this is me just being very upfront with you. Really important. Okay. So we have two special right triangles. The first one is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. What kind of triangle is that? Say it. It's an isosceles. Okay. So that means whatever the legs are, they're the same. When we do the Pythagorean theorem on an isosceles right triangle, every time you are going to get your hypotenuse to be square root of 2 times what the legs are. Yep, but we're going to write it as a square root of 2. Okay. So what I want you to draw is this. Okay. I want you to draw an arrow from the leg to the hypotenuse, and I want you to put multiply by 2. Leg to hypotenuse, we are multiplying by radical 2. Okay. What if we have the hypotenuse and we want to go to a leg? How would we get there? We would divide by radical 2. Okay, so it's one rule you need to remember. On a 45, 45, 90 triangle, our hypotenuse is radical 2 times as long as the leg. That's it. Okay. Now, this is how we are going to utilize that. Okay, I would like you, we're going to draw, we're going to draw, okay, we're going to draw a triangle right here. We're going to draw more than one, just so you know. So we have a right triangle where I have 45, 45, and this side is 3. That is maybe not my best right triangle, but you can give me a little grace, right? Okay, so what do we know about a 45, 45, 90 triangle? We know that it's isosceles. So this side over here is 3. How do we get from our legs to the hypotenuse? We are going to multiply by radical 2. So if I take my leg and multiply it by radical 2, we have 3 radical 2. Done. It's as simple as that. Okay. Now, the more complicated things come when maybe we have an irrational leg, like maybe you have like 3 radical 3 as your leg, and then we have to multiply radicals. Or in this situation, I want you to draw this triangle with me. That's pretty good. When we have our hypotenuse, sometimes we have to do a little bit more work. Okay. But these are the types of problems where we have to do some algebra things, which is why we spent 2 days working on radicals last week. Okay. So what piece do we have? We have the hypotenuse. So in order to get from our hypotenuse to the leg, we are going to have to divide by the square root of 2. Now, can I leave it as 6 divided by the square root of 2? No. So we're going to have to do a little bit of work. We can't have a radical in our denominator. How do we get rid of that? We need to multiply numerator and denominator, by the square root of 2. Okay, so now I have 6 square root 2 over 2. Is that simplified yet? No, because 6 divided by 2 is, okay, so our sides, our legs of our 45-45 right triangle are 3 root 2.
It'd be like,
Oh, back here. Okay, so what I'm gonna have you do, I'm gonna have you take your notebooks. I'm gonna have you turn to page 11. Keep your student journals out because we still have one more type of triangle to write about. But what I'm gonna have you do is I am gonna have you see if you can give me the answers to 1, 2, and 3 here on page 11. Okay, don't put your student journals away. We're coming back to that page, but on this page 11, I want you to look at 1, 2, and 3, work together at your table with your elbow partner, whatever, get these 3 written out.
no.
Okay, in number 1, Harvey, what do you have for X? 8. Excellent. And then for Y? Beautiful. Our legs are the same and our hypotenuse is radical 2 times as long. Are we okay? Are we all in agreement there? Okay. All right. Alexa, what do you have for number 2, X and Y? Okay. So our legs are the same and our hypotenuse is radical 2 times the legs. Are we in agreement there? Okay. Now in number 3, Braden, how do we go from hypotenuse to legs? So when we take 19 and we divide it by the square root of 2, Braden, what does that simplify to be? And as ugly as that looks, that's the answer that we're wanting. Yes. Because we are taking our leg and we are multiplying by square root of 2. So we're just taking 25 and multiplying that by the square root of 2. Okay, whereas in number 3, we have the hypotenuse, so we're dividing by the square root of 2. Because we cannot have a square root in our denominator. We have to rationalize so that we don't have a square root in the denominator. That is a math rule. That will always be a math rule. Okay.
Why can't you just like simplify the 2?
So this is an exact answer. Putting it in the calculator gives you a decimal approximation. Okay. An irrational number is a number that goes on forever without any repeated decimals. So this is as exact as we can get it, whereas you would be rounding it. Okay. All right, so let's go back to our student journals and let's talk about our 30, 60, 90. Okay. In our 30, 60, 90, everything that we are going to talk about is based off of the short leg. Notice how the short leg is always going to be across from our smallest angle, 30 degrees. So when I say short leg, we're across from 30. When I say long leg, we're across from 60. And obviously we know that the hypotenuse is the hypotenuse, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to write SL right here for short leg, and write LL right here for long leg, and then write H for hypotenuse, okay? That's what we're talking about. So you see this X, 2X, X radical 3. So what's happening is whatever our short leg is, we are going to multiply that by 2 to get our hypotenuse. Which also means if we have our hypotenuse, how do we get to our short leg? We would have to divide by 2. So this arrow is going from short leg to hypotenuse. If we go the other way, we'd have to divide. Okay. To go from short leg to long leg, we are multiplying by radical 3. Okay. Short leg to long leg, we would multiply by radical 3, which means if we're going to go backwards from long leg to short leg, then we would have to use division. Okay. I want you to write this. Short leg first. That is your reminder that if you don't have the short leg, you have to find it first. If you already have it, then the problem is going to be easy. Okay. Yeah, because if you have the long leg, you would divide by radical 3 to get there. Okay. All right, so we're going to do 3 examples in this space right here. Okay. Here will be the first one. It's not my best. We're going to call that good. So 30, 60, and 2. As you're drawing this triangle, which side is the 2? 2 is the short leg because it's across from the 30 degrees. Okay. So how do we go from our short leg to the hypotenuse? Look at your diagram. What do? We multiply by 2. So if we multiply 2 by 2, our hypotenuse is 4. Okay, to go from short leg to long leg, we need to multiply by radical 3, which means our long leg is going to be 2 times square root of 3, which is just 2 times the square root of 3. There's nothing we can do with that.
what type of feature?
Okay. All right. Let's look at another one. See if nope, I cannot draw a better triangle. Okay. So here we have one. Hello. 30, 60, and we have the hypotenuse of 10. Okay, so what do we have? Oh, just what do we have? What's 10? The hypotenuse. What must we find first? In order to get to the short leg, we got to take our hypotenuse and do what with it? Divide it by 2, which means our short leg is 5. Once we have our short leg, then we can multiply by square root 3 to get 5 square root 3. Well, let's maybe look at an example like that, Clark. Let's look at an example where we have the long leg. That was not my best 30, 60, 90 triangle, but you can forgive me. Okay, across from 60 degrees, it is labeled length 4. We cannot go straight from long leg to hypotenuse. We always have to go to the short leg first. So how do we go from long leg to short leg? We have to take 4 divided by root 3. Can we leave it like that, Harvey? No. Okay. So we need to do our rationalizing, which is going to give us 4 square root 3 over 3. Is that okay? That is okay. Okay. Now that we have our short leg, okay. Now that we have our short leg, we can multiply it by 2 to get to the long leg. Now, this is times 2, which is like times 2 over 1. We just don't see the 1, right? So 4 times 2 is 8. So we have 8 square root of 3 over 3. That's how we would multiply that number by 2. Okay. So what I want you to do, I want you to go back to page 11. And I am going to have you do number 4, skip 5, number 6, skip 7, number 8, number 9. So I'm only having you do 4 problems. Okay, and I'll give you about 5 minutes to get it done. Okay, and then we'll go over it. What? You're not talking to me, sorry. You can talk to each other too, it's totally cool. Skip 5, skip 7. Trying to save us some time here.
So y is 20, radical 3 over then multiply that by 2. 40 radical 3. Is y 20 radical 3? Is y 20 radical?
Over 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really excited about Miss Rue's English activity. Well, you guys get to like, we wrote a sentence as teachers as like the voice of one of you students, and you have to figure out like which kid it is. And then you get to do the same thing with us.
Yeah, I guess it's definitely one of them.
What? Okay, so do you agree that number 4 is 5 radical 3 and 10? And 6 is 16 and 16 radical 3. Okay, now in number 8, when we divide 20 by radical 3, did you get 20 radical 3 over 3? And then to get our hypotenuse, 40 radical 3 over 3. Okay, now this is an observation about number 9. I think some of us did more work than we needed to. So we all knew we needed to divide by radical 3. So we have 9 radical 3 divided by radical 3. Yes, I know there's a radical in the denominator, but you don't necessarily have to rationalize because those just cancel, and we have 9. Right, which is cool, and you get the same answer. But if you have radical 3 divided by radical 3, they do cancel out to be 1, and it's just going to save you some time. Okay, so what I want you to do is in your student journals, pages 250 and 251 are your homework. I'll have you get started.